Okay, so while global EdTech funding is pretty much in a deep freeze, there's one market in Southeast Asia that is absolutely red hot, and that's Vietnam. Today, we're going to unpack the investment thesis that has founders and VCs flocking to this booming sector. Let's dive right in.
So the whole story of Vietnam's edtech market really comes down to this fascinating paradox. To get why this opportunity is so huge, you first have to understand the tension between a really chilling global outlook and, well, a thriving local reality. And let's be clear, globally, the picture for edtech is not great. Venture funding has absolutely cratered. We're talking an 89% drop from its peak back in 2021. I mean, it's hit a decade low. VCs are on the sidelines. Those big funding rounds have basically vanished. It's a full-on capital winter out there. But then, you've got Vietnam. While the rest of the world is freezing, Vietnam's edtech market is on track to triple in size. It's rocketing from $1 billion to $3 billion by 2033. That's a compound annual growth rate of almost 13%. So the obvious question is, what on earth is fueling this fire?
Well, the answer isn't just one single thing. It's actually four powerful, interconnected engines. And these aren't just passing trends, you know? These are deep structural forces that are just turbocharging the market's momentum.
So here's the anatomy of the boom. First, you have proactive government policy that's literally creating the market. Second, you have a hyper-connected mobile-first population that's just ready to adopt new tech. Third, there's a huge skills gap that traditional education just can't fill. And finally, you've got this cultural obsession with education that's backed by some serious household spending.
And look, this isn't just some government fluff. This is a direct mandate from the Prime Minister. This quote right here, it represents a hard, measurable KPI that is actively creating a market. And for investors and founders, what does that mean? It means a predictable environment that's totally right for scaling.
Now, on the demand side, the numbers are just as staggering. The average family in Vietnam invests a full 20% of their disposable income in their kids' education. Just think about that. That is a massive commitment, way more than their regional peers. It's what turns a cultural value into an incredibly powerful revenue stream.
There's also this major tailwind coming from macroeconomics. This China Plus One strategy means a ton of foreign investment is pouring into Vietnam, and this influx is creating this huge demand for high-skilled labor. You know, people who can code, speak English, work with data. It's a demand that the traditional system just can't keep up with. And EdTech, well, it's becoming the critical bridge to fill that gap.
All right, so we know why the market is growing so fast. Now, let's get a little more granular. Where specifically are the biggest opportunities? Where is the value really being created and captured right now?
Okay, first thing you have to know, the K-12 segment is an absolute behemoth. It makes up over 81% of the entire market. And the driver for this is psychological. It's the intense pressure of the National University Entrance Exam. This has created a massive market for extra classes, and EdTech has just masterfully digitized the old-school cram school model.
Now, inside the English learning segment, which is super lucrative, there's a really crucial shift happening. The market is moving away from just casual, general English and heading straight for outcome-based learning. People are laser-focused on goals. They need a specific IELTS score to study abroad or a TOEIC score for promotion. This gives them a clear ROI, and that creates huge demand for specialized, high ARPU test prep platforms.
And if we look to the future, there are two areas that are just poised for explosive growth. First is vocational and tech training, which is booming to close that skills gap we talked about, and second is B2B corporate training. Now this one's a bit of a slower burn, but it promises high stickiness and really predictable recurring revenue as Vietnam's entire corporate sector modernizes. Okay, so we've mapped the market. Now let's talk playbook. What are the business models and the tech trends that are actually working on the ground? How are the leading companies really winning?
So the dominant model here isn't pure online. It's this really powerful hybrid called OMO, which stands for Online Merge Offline. This model basically takes the scale of online learning for all the theory and then combines it with the high-touch engagement of physical centers for hands-on projects. It's really the best of both worlds.
And hey, this isn't just a theory. MindX is the perfect example of OMO in action. They've scaled to almost 50 physical campuses all across the country while also growing their online platform. This proves the model is commercially viable, and, this is critical, it builds the kind of trust with parents that pure online platforms really struggle to get.
Now on the tech front, AI is finally shifting from being a buzzword to being core infrastructure.
But here's the secret. The key to winning isn't having the biggest AI model, it's having the most local one. The real competitive advantage comes from models that are fine-tuned on hyperlocal Vietnamese language data. That localization, that's your defensive moat.
And we can see this happening right now. You have platforms like Prep using AI to create virtual speaking rooms that give instant feedback on pronunciation, which is a huge bottleneck in traditional tutoring. And then you have Vuihoc, which is using it to create adaptive learning paths to make sure students don't fall behind. This is AI delivering real, tangible value to students.
So let's bring all of this home. Let's crystallize this into the core investment thesis. What is it that makes Vietnam's EdTech market such a compelling opportunity, right here and right now?
The whole thesis really boils down to 3 simple points. First, you have market fundamentals that are powerfully define that global slowdown. Second, you have clear, proven, and scalable playbooks like OMO and localized AI that are already winning. And third, there is this massive, untapped blue ocean in emerging segments like vocational and corporate training.
Look, the picture is pretty clear. This is a market at a major inflection point. It's being powered by these deep structural forces and guided by innovative proven models. So the final question is pretty simple. With a market that's about to triple to $3 billion, where are you going to place your bet?